Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here. It is the Earthmaster on this side. It is the weekend. Weekend is definitely upon us. Saturday, February 10th, 2024, 2:39 p.m. here, California time. Latest activity looks like some continued movement here in the area of Hawaii. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity there from the USGS. Of course, yesterday we had a decent-sized earthquake out here, 5.7 coming in to the Pahala area, way down there, about 35 kilometers or so below the surface. Looks like that swarming is continuing today. That latest 2.1 right there in the mix of earthquake activity. Notice the depth there below the surface, 34 kilometers. So continuing to watch that. Doesn't look like we've seen any major adjustment far as volcanic activity. The latest informational statement, let's go over here and check this out from the USGS. And see what they're having to say about this today. Still sitting out of yellow. Latest update that was put out today, it looks like, shows that the volcano is currently not erupting, and the seismicity around the summit and along the fault systems there southwest of the summit continue to decrease in terms of earthquake activity. Of course, they do mention the intrusion of magma into the area recently. The question is, where'd all that magma go, right? Had about 9 million cubic meters of magma just disappear? No, it didn't. It's continuing to head off towards the south and southwest, I believe. The 5.7, according to the USGS, near Pahala yesterday has not affected volcanic activity at Kilauea Volcano. But we'll continue to watch that and report on any changes out here across this area, as I still think we're looking at some activity here happening soon. Let's look at the tilt meter here, the UWE. Doesn't look like we've seen any major adjustment here. I don't know what happened to this one. There's that little drop in the tilt meter here. Hold on one second. Is this today's activity? Doesn't look like it. This kind of looks like it's from yesterday. So this is some older data here. This activity cut off yesterday about this time. So we're not even seeing any newer graphs out here. Let me check the seismograph, see if they're functioning. And they are not. Look at 210, 0000 UTC time. And right now it's 210, 2240. We're almost into 211 in the UTC time. So this is almost a day old. Data blackout once again here. I'm not for sure why these keep going down. They fix them temporarily, and then it seems like after about 24 hours, they drop off again. Not for sure what's going on, but how are we supposed to monitor activity with no instruments working here? So someone's got to jump on that and get that fixed there. That's been a continuous issue. I can't see it being that hard, right? It's obviously it's data provided up here through the public domain. Shouldn't be that hard of a deal to get set up permanently and not have these radio or these data issues. So can't really check anything. We just got to take their word for it that this is the amount of earthquake activity that's happening out here today, and that there's no concern out here for now. All right, looking at the world. Philippines still rocking and rolling down here. Yesterday we did see a 5.8. Since then we've seen a couple more 4s and even a 5-pointer within this region. So still kind of keep an eye on this area for some further movement. Really haven't seen too much happening down south here across the Tonga or the Fiji area. Looks like New Zealand's seen a handful of quakes there today on the 3 size. Quite a few 3s stirring up down here across the plate boundary, but we'll keep them small, which is good. Australia's been a little bit more active than normal, I would say. Quite a few 3s out here across southern portion here of Australia. Something going on out here. Could have something to do with the lack of activity in terms of larger movement out here across the plate boundary, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. That's some interesting movement out there across the southern portion here of Australia. Crow Kamachaka, fairly quiet. And far as the rest of the globe goes, let's see, South America still seeing some movement here. Quite a few 3s and 2s on the globe. Not a whole lot showing up here on the map aside from 4.5 from yesterday. A look at the states here. Any more movement in Southern California? Well, we've seen a couple different swarms here since that activity yesterday. Getting a little swarming activity here on the Imperial Fault. Not a whole lot here across the San Andreas Fault. And far as where that earthquake struck here yesterday in the Malibu area, looks like a couple more aftershocks here since midnight. Couple twos and some ones out here. No further large-scale movement. And up north here, looks like we're getting a little swarming outside of Reno once again. This activity fairly recent, but very small earthquake activity outside of the Truckee area on the California side of the border there. Northern California still seeing a little handful of some quake activity. 4.1 just before midnight last night, and a handful of smaller quakes in this area as well. Overall, the West Coast has definitely been somewhat active above the typical background level. We'll continue to watch that, though, for some further activity. Just right now, we're seeing a little bit of a quiet spell, but again, keep an eye on the West Coast. Things have been active here over the last 24 hours for sure. As far as swarming goes down in the Gulf of California, still seeing some activity out here. 4.3 and a 4.0 since midnight, so we're still looking at some elevated conditions out here across the eastern area of the Pacific Plate. As far as Texas goes and Oklahoma, typical movement out here. We do have one earthquake out in West Virginia, Richwood area, 2.3 coming in about 2 o'clock this morning, my time, local time here. Not a big earthquake, but these fault systems do see occasional earthquakes. Not a whole lot up in Alaska. As far as the Atlantic Ocean goes, fairly quiet. A quick look here at Yellowstone National Park. I always like to double check this, make sure we're not missing any swarming activity out here. Got a handful of smaller quakes, it looks like, earlier this morning. That's going to be these small spikes right here. A couple other ones as well. But aside from that, things look fairly calm out there across the Yellowstone area in terms of earthquake and volcanic activity. Space weather activity, we're definitely watching this here, maybe for some potential strong flaring. We're still looking at these polar regions, seeing elevated radio blackouts here. This is the DRAP map, the region absorption predictions map here, in terms of these charged particles from these recent flares affecting the areas of the polar regions, and sometimes they're the sunlit side of the Earth. That is continuing, so we got a decent proton event still in full swing. That could linger through the night and possibly in tomorrow as well. A lot of charged particles shot off from these flares recently, from the X flare and the M flare here more recently. Look at the flare level right now. Looks like we've tapered off slightly. We still have a very large sunspot here, 3576. That is looking a little bit in terms of decline. Looking like it's degrading a little bit here, unfortunately. I had my hopes up high for this sunspot region in terms of flare activity. But we'll continue to have to watch that. It's not completely done yet, but we're looking at a lot of decaying going on within the magnetic core of that sunspot. We do have a couple other sunspots out here that appear to be growing. So we'll keep an eye on these sunspots. Overall, we got a threat for 99% chance of C flare, M flare at 60, and still elevated around the X flare at 25% chance. And of course, we're still seeing that proton event continue, and that will most likely prevail through the night and tomorrow, possibly, before toning back down. No major roars in the forecast, at least for now. Those large CMEs that have been blasted off there recently from these large flares are directed away from Earth, unfortunately, so we're not looking at any major aurora forecasts here for now. Storm Prediction Center, as far as severe weather goes, looking at starting to look like spring a little bit out here across a big area of Texas for some slight risk activity. Large 2% zone there stretching across the Texas area into Louisiana. Looks like some wind, and the main threat appears to be some very large hail. Texas produces some mega hail. I definitely found that out here last spring when I was out here kind of storm chasing a little bit. Definitely some decent sized hail. So if you're in this hatched area, more than likely you got a decent chance of seeing that large hail here, about 2-inch diameter or larger, within about 25 miles of a point across that area of Texas. Next couple days there, that severe weather shifts further to the east across portions of the south there and southeast as we head into the beginning part of the week. Looking at the numerical models here, this is not completely done yet, but we will take a look here and see what we got for the forecast for the West Coast. Been watching a series of potential storm systems here, still remaining positive in terms of seeing some wet weather here beginning about the 17th or so. A little bit of change in the weather models today compared to yesterday, showing a little bit more of a southern track here from this low pressure system. But again, that's about 10 days out. We'll have to watch this. Either way, most of the models are in agreement that we're going to see a return of some nice low pressure systems here slamming into the West Coast, bringing us some much needed precipitation, right? I'm not going to complain about precipitation one bit. Keeps us out of the drought. Far as the current seismograph stations out here, not showing too much out here right now. A little bit of spiky activity there across the Hot Caves Hawaii station. Hopefully we get this up here soon in terms of getting the data back up. As far as Iceland goes, I don't think we have to worry about this for probably at least a couple weeks or so. Still seeing some earthquake activity, mainly northeast here and away from the current most recent fissure activity. Just seeing some generally small earthquake activity there around those rift zones. As far as the Savartsingi area and the general uptick in terms of inflation, still kind of climbing back up the ladder here after the nice drop off here from the most recent eruptive fissure activity. We're going to continue to head up, and like I say, if this is going to be a common, regular occurrence out here in terms of eruptions, we got about 30 days or so before we see another potential inflation event and seeing the eruptive activity take place there outside the Grindavik area. Of course, there's always concern of the eruptive activity occurring directly underneath and within the Grindavik area of Iceland, but we'll continue to watch that. All right, folks. Have yourself a good day. I'll be out here a little bit later tonight. Just got back here from a little trip up in Mount Lassen. Had to go up there and see how things were doing. Quite a bit of snow up there right now. I did post a video here for the members. Go check that out if you get a chance. In the meantime, we'll catch you guys back out here tonight. Saturday night update coming up in a few hours for sure. Take care, folks.